So welcome, Mayor Johnson.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Let's start with this issue. I'm sure you're aware of now. The Jackson Free Press has an article out this week in which it says the city mishandled $2 million in community development block grant money. According to the article, HUD says the city allocated about $1.9 million in money that failed to meet federal requirements. And one of your opponents, Melvin Priester Jr., says it's an example of your inattention to detail. How do you respond?
Well, it's interesting he would say that because a lot of people accuse me of paying too much attention to detail. But it also is an indication of inexperience working with the federal government. I worked at this program that you're talking about is the Community Development Block Grant Program, and I've worked with and in that program since its inception in 1975. So I'm well aware of the rules and regulations of the program. Over those years, I've had some disputes with HUD, quite frankly, as to what's eligible, what's not eligible, and we were able to work out those disputes. What's interesting about this particular situation is that all those programs, those projects, economic development projects, did not come to my attention. I was not made aware of it through any kind of correspondence when I was in office. When I leave office, I understand that there was a letter in August, another letter in September, another letter in December, and then apparently Mayor Lumumba in January said, okay, we're going to pay $1.9 million. No way in the world that I would have agreed to pay any amount of money until we had made sure that we went through every administrative process available. This was a letter or a monitoring visit at the local level. There's a regional level, there's a national level, there's Congress. I would make sure that all of those remedies were exhausted before I reached down and paid $1.9 million. Again, that's an indication of inexperience in dealing with federal programs. I've dealt with those programs for many years. And it doesn't matter really whose administration is in office. In fact, when I got back in office in 2009, there were some disputed findings with another federal agency. We worked through those disputed findings. I mean, it was $600 million. We worked it down to about $16,000. So there's a way of working through these things. But again, you have to know what you're doing. You have to have experience. And you have to have confidence that you're going to continually fight for taxpayer dollars. I mean, this $1.9 million is money that taxpayers in the city of Jackson have reached into their pocket and gave to the city. For one, I don't take that lightly. So I would still be fighting. Certainly a letter coming to me in August and me saying in January, okay, we're going to give you $1.9 million. That's simply not enough time to get through all of the negotiations, all of the remedies that are available to the city of Jackson.
Well, I'm sure the press will be following that up. So I want to move on to some other things now. One of the things I heard you recently say is that one of your regrets is that you didn't get the word out more about your accomplishments. Why don't people know what you did?
I really don't know. I mean, I think that there are, we use various means. We had electronic newsletters, we had monthly meetings in the ward, we had COPS meetings on a monthly basis. I opened up my doors before each and every council meeting for a half hour for people to come in and talk about issues. I really don't know. We had a lot of accomplishments.
What were they?
Downtown, the Convention Center, the King Edward Hotel, Standard Life Building, Union Station, downtown housing, all of those things happen downtown. But outside of downtown, you have Westland Plaza, you have road work like High Street, Fortification Street, West Street, Sywell Road was 4-lane. We also have West County Line Road there by Tougaloo was done. We spent over $200 million on infrastructure improvements during the 12 years I was in office, and we did that, by the way, without a sales tax increase. Those are some of the things that happened. We graduated 23 police classes, the most of any administration in the history of the city. We had some 500 police officers on the streets for the first time in the history of the city. So we've done a lot in terms of building a foundation here in the city of Jackson, and we constantly have to remind people of that, and unfortunately, we had to do it during this campaign.
A lot of it is that it's hard to get people to be patient because a lot of what's wrong with Jackson is going to take years, maybe even decades to turn around. As a politician, what's the challenge for you to get people to demonstrate that patience?
Well, before I faced that challenge as a politician, I also faced it as a planner. Because that's one of the problems that planners have. I mean, we have these visions that it's going to take 20 years or 10 or 15 years to come to fruition, and people are impatient. And they're particularly impatient if government has neglected them. When I came into office in 1997, I was told by Maynard Jackson at that time that there would be high expectations in the black community and high anxiety in the white community. The black community had these expectations that things would turn around immediately. But you're quite right. It takes time. As long as we're making steady and forward-moving progress, that's what should be expected of the mayor and of elected officials. And I submit that we've been doing that here in the city of Jackson. But again, people are impatient. If you take downtown development, for instance, we actually did the plan for downtown development in 2004. That plan called for a convention center, called for the revitalization of the King Edward and Standard Life, called for Union Station, called for the two-laning of Capitol Street, called for the Pinnacle, called for downtown housing. Here we are 10 years later, and that plan just about has been completely implemented. But it took 10 years to do that, and it took paying attention to those details, if you will, to make it happen.
We don't have a lot of time left, so I want to ask you quickly about jobs. It's kind of rough for a lot of people out there. What could you do as mayor to turn some things around?
Well, we've done jobs for Jacksonians. We've actually set up an initiative to make sure that Jacksonians get jobs, particularly with contractors that we're doing business with. That's one thing. But looking forward, we need to think outside of the box. And one of the things that I want to do to create jobs is to work as hard as I can with the business community, with the healthcare community, to expand Medicaid. It's extremely important that we expand Medicaid here in the city of Jackson because 25,000 Jacksonians are currently without health insurance, and they would be eligible for health insurance under an expanded Medicaid.
Really quickly, because that's more of a state or federal issue, how could you as mayor have any say in it?
Well, the bully pulpit of the mayor's office, forming a coalition of health care providers, of the medical professionals and business people here in the city of Jackson, pushing the state government to make things happen here in the city of Jackson because it's going to create jobs and it's also going to increase and improve the quality of life of those 25,000 people here in the city.
Thank you so much. Good luck to you. May the best man or woman win.
Thank you very much for having me.